Good morning. It's great to see you all here. The sun has come out. Our stars are on stage. I'm Brian Welch. I run Ogden Publications. We own Mother Earth News, and the editor, Mother Earth Living, and a variety of other things. And thank you for coming to our party. Among the other awesome stuff I get to do in my job is I get to introduce my heroes. These two guys have me in introduction. David Schafer and Joel Salatin are among the best known people in sustainable agriculture and among the smartest people in sustainable agriculture and anything else for that matter. When we did this demonstration last year in Pennsylvania, somebody asked me what it was like, and the closest thing I could compare it to was almost like church. Really. You're here for a really special moment, I think, and I hope you appreciate it as much as I do. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Brian. I just want to acknowledge Brian and his staff for having the guts to walk the talk. I mean, who else would be willing to do something like this? And I just love this crew, James and Jason and Tim and Cheryl and everybody's been so helpful to work with. And I've heard so many people just like random comments, this is the greatest show ever. And we feel that way. We go to a lot of them, this is the greatest show ever. And let's just show some love to the Mother Earth News people for having the guts to do this. Thank you, Brian. Just amazing. I love their optimism. I love their diversity. Brian shared with us that quickly that they're kind of talking about the political spectrum.
Sure, absolutely.
That you guys fall in two camps. You're either very, very liberal or very, very conservative. And isn't that incredible? That I mean, and he said, he looks at because you have so much passion. Whatever you do it passionately. It trumps all political boundaries. Joe's been saying this forever. So I want to acknowledge a few more people before we start real quick. My incredible team, Renee and Amanda. This is not easy to throw all this together. This is a kind of a ticklish demo. Please stand up, Renee and Amanda, and acknowledge them for all their help. Thank you so much. Karen and Lauren Olson, please stand up. I want to acknowledge the people that brought us their well cared for, much loved chickens. A very important part of this demonstration, Blackjack Farm. Where are you guys? Please stand up and be acknowledged. I know you're here. Anybody see them? Karen and Lauren, they're hiding. Anyway, we really appreciate what they've done. It's a very important part of it. And one last acknowledgement before we kick it into gear is there's one person without whom none of us would be here, and this sort of thing would never even be happening today. He had a vision 25 years ago of what agriculture could look like, proved it on his own laboratory of the field and farm, and held this vision so strongly that people like me and you could feel it, live it. An hour with Joel is a life-changing experience, and give your very best welcome to amazing son Joel. Changed my life. Okay, want me to, the format. We're going to run through 4 chickens rapidly, and maybe just one preamble to this. I'd like to say that we're serious about this being a sacred contract. When you take on the responsibility of caring for an animal's life, it's a deep commitment. And people say this, oh, how can you kill your own chickens, you know? And one lady, I assume she's here, I said it's a sacred contract that you made when you got those chickens, whether you internalize it or not, you're going to give them the best care all the way, and not just turn it over to somebody else at the very end. So we consider this, you know, in the tradition, long tradition of sacred taking of life. Didn't stop back with people a couple hundred years ago. This is a responsibility that we don't take lightly. We encourage you to look at it that way. And I'm going to jump into this, but I want you to take your mind to the farmer that cared for these animals and to appreciate sacrifice that everyone's made, and appreciate the lives that are going to be demonstrated here. And think about that next time you eat. And it's just a great way of giving thanks and acknowledging. So I'm going to kick in. Joel is going to do his wonderful thing. And we'll do these 4 fairly rapidly, and the next 4 we'll slow down and take questions and get into detail. So far, so good?
Yeah, so far, yeah, go ahead and start. And I'd like you to just think that we're in the temple here, okay? There can be no life without sacrifice. This is one of the most foundational truths. In fact, I would suggest it's one of the biggest fallacies of industrial farming and chemical fertilization, that you can actually grow life from inert material. The cycle of life, death, decomposition, regeneration is a sacred truth, and probably one of the most fundamental ecological truths that there is. That sacrifice precedes life. So these birds have been denied. We've been denied feed now for about 18 hours, and by denying them feed, it lets all their feed in their esophagus and their crop go through the system in their intestines, so that they're not all full of grit and feed and everything. Okay, now, yeah, okay, are you seeing that? Is this showing up on the screen? Okay, so what we're doing here is, before you do that one, Dave, let me just, the bird, the way to hold the chicken is like this. You stick your middle finger through their legs and hold them just like this, and that way you can hold them comfortably, you can move them around, and their poop is always going away from you. But just like us, the bird has 2 arteries that come into their head, and as it comes into their neck, they get closer and closer to the windpipe. So what we want to do is we want to actually slit the throat here as it widens into the beak right here, so you can get one without getting the windpipe. You're trying to just cut the artery and not the windpipe. Okay? I just wanted to point that out. There you go.
How do I hold it? Just kidding.
Because what you're trying to do, this is the sit. Huh?
I actually never did it that way. But I keep their legs in their wings.
Yeah.
Just straighten, they calm down.
Okay. The technique here is essentially halal or kosher. There's no electrocution, and there's no gassing. A lot of people today think you have to gas them and you have to electrocute them and all this stuff. And actually, for me, on the intuitive sense of it, to say that halal and kosher throughout history has been inhumane is arrogantly silly on the notion of it, and doesn't bespeak a new embracing of an evolved sense of cosmic relatedness, but rather a devolved sense of disconnectedness to this very visceral, participatory relationship that we have with all of life. So what we want is to just sever that artery so the bird actually pumps, so the autonomic nervous system continues to function and pump the blood out of the body. And when you get I hope nobody buys tickets in the store, but if you do, you might see a lot of black around the bones. That's clotted blood from being improperly bled. In the industry, when you electrocute and you gas, they don't bleed as well as they do when you just slip the one artery. The sensation for the bird is essentially the same sensation as when you're pulling weeds or something, you got your head down, all of a sudden somebody says something, you jerk up, you get that little lightheaded feeling. That's what the feeling is for them. In about 1.5 seconds, they've essentially gone into that that fainty lightheadedness, and then they go away. The cones protect them. We call this the Wheel of Fortune.
Joel's idea.
And the cones protect them from bruising themselves, So many people have said, oh, I remember my grandma, she took these chickens, took the hatchet, and whacked the heads off. And there again, that shuts down the autonomic nervous system, and they actually don't bleed as well as they do on a more gentle type kill like this. And so the cones protect them from bruising themselves and all that. Technically, if the blood is gone, they can't bruise, because a bruise is indicative of blood coming up. So if you're processing a bird and you see bruises, those didn't happen after this. Those happen because of mishandling or rough handling when you were picking them up, transporting, that sort of thing. Are we good? We're good. Takes usually about 90 seconds for them to actually stop their muscle spasms and everything and actually go nice and still. Right?
Right. I have a question for you to answer. Somebody picked up your book and quoted it that you would like to have a slow kill rather than a fast kill, and I was wondering if that's
like
really
slow money and fast money. It's like slow food and fast food. Yeah.
Do you think this is a slower kill than taking the head off or something?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a much less traumatic thing.
It's much less traumatic. So that's what you mean by the
the slow kill. Right.
Good.
So, all right. So slower.
So there are a lot of ways to loosen the feathers. The next step after the bleed out is the scald, and traditionally it was in Grandma's pot of boiling water, but we have a narrow window of temperature control here, so it's going to be a lot more accurate. I've added a generous amount of detergent, and the reason for the soap is to break the surface tension on water. If you put water on a plate, it actually has cohesion. Surface tension, what you call in science they call it the meniscus, where the water adheres up the edge of a beaker, right? When you pour it in a beaker, the water goes up the edges and the low spots in the middle. And so the soap breaks that surface tension so that you get better penetration into the feather follicle. The reason for the movement is because those feathers need to move back and forth. As they wave, those feathers are in a follicle just like your hair, okay? And what you want is for those feathers to move around, because that movement creates places for the water to penetrate. So you break the surface tension of the water's running about, 140, 145? I run it a little hot, Joel, because I'm out of the water 50% of the time, which is more than we do with the witch doctor type deal. So I run it a little bit hot, and I found that I still don't tear skin, knock on wood.
That's fine. If you scald too heavily, then you put them in the picker, the skin rips. And if you don't scald enough, then the feathers don't come out very well. And then that makes the quality control people unhappy. And when they're not happy, nobody's happy.
So you notice
the scald is the secret to everything. That's the secret to the pick.
And I'm pulling wing feathers to test. And I just keep pulling them, and when they're coming real easily, which they are on this one, but on this second one, the last one I put in, they're still a little bit tight there, that pulled easily. I'm going to go for it. So I'll turn a little water on, and turn the machine on, and here we go. I'm not using very much water. You can see it coming out.
The cold water bath, but these birds are coming out real hot, and the cold water shower in the picker actually helps the feathers to come off better, because there's a bit of a temperature shock, like hot cold, and that hot cold actually helps the feathers to come out better.
Okay. These are pretty big birds. Not one with some feathers on the back.
You have a pluck to take a nose, that's magic. All right. So what we've got is the heads are all attached, and we leave all the heads attached in the picker so that you have some mass to to bounce around in the fingers to get those feathers off. If you take the head off prior to the picker, then you'll have a bunch of feathers out the little flaily edges of skin on the neck. Are you with me? So the head gives you a little bit of mass to beat against the thing. So we don't cut the heads off. If you cut them off, then you're going to automatically, you're going to hit neck bones and things like that. You're going to make shards. So we pull the head off. Just pull the head off, okay? And that way, it ensures that the head, that the neck pulls at a vertebrae. Now, another thing to notice is, again, by slitting it real close to the head, you leave most of the neck on the bird. You know, I'm going to talk like a capitalist here a minute, but when you're doing thousands of birds like we are, an ounce at let's just say you're selling them. Let's make it easy for the math this morning. $3.20 a pound. Every ounce is worth how much? 20 cents. Right. So if I start taking away an ounce per bird and do 20,000 birds, let's say. That's $4,000. Okay? 2 ounces is how much? 8. Right. So the ounces add up. So the point is, we want to put as little in this gut bucket as possible. We want the customer to get as much of that as possible. So that's another reason to cut way up high to the neck and not cut way down here. All right. Okay. Now we come to the feet. And anytime you're cutting up a chicken, you're looking for the valleys. So if you'll notice here, I don't know, can you see there's a valley here in this foot? All right. So you don't want to cut over here. That's a ridge. You don't want to cut over here. That's a ridge. You want to come right into the valley, and you'll catch that middle. So that's what you're looking for. Okay. And by the way, we're now selling almost all of our legs for people that buy them 10 pounds in a baggie to make Jewish mother soup and gelatin and things like that, okay? But you shouldn't be cutting bones. If you're cutting on a valley, you won't be cutting bones. All right, now let's gut one. Okay. So the first thing is the oil sac on the tail. Here's a little oil sac right here. So we're going to cut off that oil sac. All right. And we're going to turn the bird around. Everything here is about positioning, okay? So then we're going to just grab the skin here at the neck and just nick it. We're just going to nick it enough to stick our fingers in and tear. Actually, surgeons tell me that this is very much the way surgeons actually don't cut very much. They do a lot more tearing and ripping because you can control it a lot better than if you cut. You start cutting, you can cut too deep real easily, and oops, all of a sudden I've cut an aorta. So by processing humor has always intrigued me. Our son Daniel, whenever he does this, at show, people come up to the processing office to see this. Daniel always tells me, he says, I got 2 rules of processing. One is, keep your mouth closed, and if you feel anything on your lip, don't lick it. So we're going to rip that open, and right in here is the crop. Can you see the crop right here? That's this sac. And remember, if these birds had not come to this fasting, this would be all full of feed and grass and grit and all sorts of things. So by taking the feed away, it makes this nice and clean. So it's very slick. This is everybody's Waterloo. Well, there are many Waterloos here, but this is one of them. And if you try to pinch it, you can't get it off. It just sits there, and it's just like trying to pull snot or something. It's just slick. Okay. So what we want to do is tuck my thumb under here. See all that surface area. See how much I'm holding there? All that surface area. I'm pulling that down, and then I'm going to switch hands, pull this back, poke my thumb underneath, and pull the windpipe and the esophagus out of the neck. See, I've got 2 pipes there. Are you with me? All right. One hose. The air pipe feels like a vacuum hose. Got ribs in it. All right. The esophagus, of course, can collapse. I'm just going to leave that. I'm not going to pull it out. The reason is because if I try to cut it in here, I'm going to start breaking digestive juices into the carcass. All right, so I'm just going to leave that. All right. And we're going to flip the bird around. I'm going to pull up the rear end here. Again, just nick the rear. And then I'm going to go in and that fat, this fat right here that's on the gizzard, that's an ounce. All right? So I'm going to pull that fat off and leave it with the carcass. Remember, fat's where it's at. All right? And then I'm going to pull out the, here's the heart and the liver. Okay? We'll take the heart and the liver off. All right? That leaves all the guts in my left hand. Now you can save the gizzard if you want to. We don't. Do you want to save the gizzard? No. Okay. All right.
No.
We didn't answer in a half a second. Okay. We have no problem giving livers away. We have people come, oh, the gizzard's the best thing in the chicken. Save more. Okay, fine. So, we save 2 5-gallon bucketfuls. We never had anybody else come back same time. So they got clean. So that leaves you with the single intestine. Are you with me? Single intestine. Now we're going to come right here to the edge as close as we can. Slice down on both sides and then slice underneath. There's your guts and there's your nice clean rear end. Okay. Now what's left in there is 1 lung. Piece of a lung. Down in the rib cage, there's the 2 lungs. Okay. Got a piece of windpipe still in there. Now everything's nice and clean. We wash it out. And then we cut a little slice in the skin here, poke the legs in, and there's your oven-ready bird. Okay? All right, let's do one fast. All right, so here he comes. Okay, just to show you how we can.
Start your watches.
There's the oil sack. Crop. Pipes. These have a little bit of manure in them. All right. And we'll go ahead and get the intestines out. Heart and liver. We're pulling that off of the gallbladder. Down, down. Lung, lung. Wash out. There you are. Okay. All right. You want to go ahead and do?
I can.
Dress the other 4.
Okay. All right.
And
I'll do that. I'm going to talk.
We know that our time changed because there was. Well, I don't know what all the reasons are, but anyway, our time changed. So we wanted to go through this. We're going to have plenty of time for questions, but we wanted to get through these first group because we know that some of you may need to leave at 11:30 because that's what the original time was.
So I'll talk about.
Yeah, you go ahead.
So,
you talk. I'll go ahead and do these other 2, and you talk.
What I believe is the primary sensation that this bird is experiencing. First of all, the cone is like a big hug. If any of you have ever seen Temple Grandin's story, how she built that squeeze chute for herself to calm herself and hide under the stress of being autistic and being socialized. Well, I make up that same thing happens because we witness the birds getting calm and quiet when they go upside down this cone. The main sensation is me gently pulling the neck down, and you'll notice I take the knife and scrape feathers back so I'm not cutting through the feathers. And actually the spot I'm looking for is right near their auricle, their ear, which is actually under my finger. Of course, they flinch. They usually don't flinch, but. This coop is a little bit of a challenge, and I'm learning how to get them out without exciting them, but my goal is never hear a cluck. So they're just happy, 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 dead. Isn't that the way you want to go? And in my mind, I say, go in peace. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
You're only doing one side.
I'm only doing one side. My fantasy is that the first one's a surprise. The second side, they know what's going on. But any higher speed line is going to do both sides. I don't have a problem with that. It's just not what I do. I have much more of a problem with a coop that has a narrow opening like that. It stresses them out, and they can flap and get bruises. Their blood's still in them now, so I'm going to sell her a coop. She's done a good job of taking care of these birds so far, and coops are expensive. She's got a nice wire cage that holds them, allows them to stand up instead of squatting like they do in our coops. But it's stressful for them, you can see that. All right. So, all we're witnessing after the initial incision is should be a quiet bird until rigor mortis sets in. Isn't always the case, but that flap is classic rigor mortis, and that's just oxygen starvation in the muscle tissue causing it to contract, and it doesn't mean anything. They're far gone. It really is lights out, like Joel said, within a couple of seconds. It's been measured, and there's a debate about pain felt, and frankly the research is, I think, really flawed that implicates this sort of dispatching as being more painful. Won't go into the details of it, but my notion is that anybody who knows chickens can tell when chickens are feeling pain. I mean, right? They squawk. Yes, ma'am. If they don't squawk, they're not being disturbed. Yes. Okay. The question, everybody here? The question is, what are the differences between the dunking methods? It's a great question. We started out with what we call a witch dunker deal, and you just put the birds on shackles, and it's a counterweighted with springs mechanism that when you put 4 birds on it, stays level, so a child can do it. And we like that a lot. It has the advantage of kind of penetrating better. The birds are going up and down like this. It also has the quality of keeping the birds in the water more, which jeopardizes the skin a little bit more. The advantages of this are, and we're still in prototype stage. You see me fiddling with it. It's not quite as bad as it was in Pennsylvania, but these birds are bigger than I expected, and I'm developing a more sturdy closing lid to keep bigger birds in. This has the advantage of allowing me to walk away when it's working without human intervention, and they're 50% in, 50% out. So it's a very, very gentle stall. I find I can run the temperature 5 or 7 degrees hotter. I'm actually up in the 150s, and we used to always say 148, give or take 2 or 3. And I'm running about 155, and I have yet to tear skin on these birds, on any birds I've used with this, in the few trials I've had with it. So
there are different theories on the scald. There's called a slack scald and a New York scald and all this, and some supposedly make the birds stay better longer in a refrigerator. Some keep all the yellow on in order to sell yellow as a selling point. So you can go as low as like 130, but for 5 minutes. I mean, there are, if you read the history of scalding, I mean, you can imagine all the experimentation with different kinds of scald. But
Shall I keep coming at you?
Sure, yeah. So, but essentially, they need to flocculate. They need to move around, and so you don't want to just stick them in there and just hold them. All right. And the beauty of the rotary is, the old style scalders where they sit on shackles on their legs, and they dunk them up and down. The most tender part of the chicken is the breast. The toughest part is around the legs. When you have them on shackles and you're dunking them up and down, the part that's the longest in the water is the tenderest part, and the part that's the least longest in the water, all right, is the toughest part. And so by going to a rotisserie type mechanism, you have consistent equilibrium on the bird, so that it scalds consistently throughout the bird. All the parts of the bird are equally submerged and equally done.
You're getting a good demonstration here. Nothing like a few screw-ups to learn a lot, and that's the way we learn, the only way we really learn. So I had a bird that still had some kick left in it. I wasn't sure if it was rigor mortis or what, but you're not going to get to see that on video. Bird kicking in water, that happens until you learn. I guess I wasn't paying attention, didn't get the cut right. You can easily sever the jugular vein, but you have to go a little deeper to get the carotid artery, and I was talking and distracted, and so I'm going to have 3 birds and then 1, and I've not done that before. I'll probably do him by hand. So, it's farming, right?
It'll be fun. Just stick your hand in there with him. If you just let him bump up against your hand, it'll be fun. It'll take all the feathers off your fingers, too.
We're ready. Let's give Joel something to do. Good night. You gotta have humor in everything. The plucker, by the way, works best when it's full. You'll notice that. When I do 1 bird at a time, it'll take a lot longer to pick.
Now, when you have numerous of them, they're bouncing up against each other. In case you didn't know, in the industry, they actually have quite a few cadavers, what they call cadavers, where because they're killing with a machine, the birds are, some of them, more than you can imagine, are missed, their arteries missed, so they actually go live into the scalder. And of course, when they come out through the picker, then the carcass is all red because the blood never left the body. Are you with me? It's all red, and they call those cadavers in the industry.
Let me just illustrate what to do if and when, and it will happen to you if it hasn't already. You pull the birds out too soon. There's still a few feathers on. It took me a while to learn this, but there's nothing wrong with going back in and doing this over again a little bit. And it won't take much, and it'll polish up just nice. If you put the birds like this on the gutting table, you're going to make people unhappy, and it really slows them down. Even though these feathers will pull fairly easily, let's let the machine do it. So, yeah, we're live. These things happen.
I got it.
Yeah, good. Round 2.
Yeah, if they're not over scalded, they can run in the picker. It's amazing how gentle this is. You think it's going to beat them to death. But it doesn't, as long as the scald is proper. Now in the industry, they don't use these kind of pickers. This is how the industry started. They started with little tabletop ones. Then they went to these, and then they went to what are called the gauntlet, where everything's on a shackle, and it goes through vertical pickers where the drums are spinning vertically and they're configured. The problem is that this bird is not a cylinder. And so the industry, their aggressiveness of their pickers is, I'm going to say, a magnitude of 5 greater than these. I had a fascinating discussion with a retired, Tyson or Holly Farms or Purdue quality control guy, been in the industry all of his life, and he retired. And he said the day the industry started having all sorts of troubles with Campylobacter and Listeria and all that stuff was the day they went from this style picker to the gauntlet, because they had to make the picking so much more aggressive in order to knock the feathers out when this bird is dangling. Here, you have the bird's gravity, working with you, and it can be a very, very gentle pick. And what those aggressive gauntlets do then is, you can have, this scalding water, I mean, it's not very dirty right now, but believe me, if we did 200 birds, it would get pretty, goopy in there, all right? And so, obviously, that goopiness from there to here, if you have a much more aggressive, and imagine a Tyson where they're running, 2,000 a half hour, okay?
You want to do a hand pick?
Want to do a hand? I don't want to do a hand pick.
You know how to do it? Anybody want to do a hand pick? I don't know.
I know how to do it.
I've never done it.
You've never done it?
No.
Well, we out here don't. Let's see it.
You don't have to. I mean,
Put him in here.
it's not in your contract.
I'd rather let my hand be the other chicken.
Oh, I see what you meant by that. Yeah, I thought you were messing
In other
with
words,
me.
you can also throw a rubber ball in there. Throw a rubber ball in.
You've had to do this before, too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Need something for the other chicken to vote.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like this motion, instead of 4 kids or 2 kids on a merry-go-round that never, this helps the pluck a lot. It's very gentle.
Chicken, you have to stick his hand in there and help it knock the feather.
That's what I've learned today. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, you name the problem, we've probably seen it.
Yep. There's
Or
only
had it,
one way
or
to
done
know.
What that guy told me was that if the industry would go back to this kind of picker, it would virtually stop all of the chlorine baths and pathogen problems that the processing industry has now, going to a more gentle pick. But of course, the industry is all about speed and pick up the pieces with irradiation and chlorine, rather than having them clean to begin with. Okay, questions on the, want me to talk you through another one? Yeah. All right, we'll do another one slow. All right, you saw the feet come off. All right. Now we'll go around here to the oil sack. All right.
Joel, I've heard people saying they don't even cut the tails off anymore.
We've had people do that.
Or take the oil gland out.
Yeah, it's okay if you want to do that. We just don't want that oil sack. I mean, there's schools of thought, painting the meat, whatever. We've always taken it out because that's just the way Grandpa did it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the roaster.
And of course, in the industry, they just cut the whole tail off and grind it up into McNuggets. So, okay. So you notice I'm just, you go into this again. You're going into the valley. You're always in the valley. You pull that skin up. You just nick it, pull it open. There's the crop. Everybody see that? Okay. I'm going to hook my thumb under it, pull it down, and then switch hands and pull it back because it's a slick little booger. And then poke my thumb underneath the pipes, pull them out, there you go. See the windpipe and the esophagus. Now sometimes, the esophagus especially, sometimes it'll break off and pull off with the head, okay? So if you don't have an esophagus, it doesn't mean you have a chicken that never had an esophagus. Trust me, they all have an esophagus, it's just that it came out with the head, all right? Then I'm going to pull up. Now again, the reason that I'm pulling this up to stretch and to tighten the vent here is because, remember, everything from my knife down is going to go in this bucket. So if I just willy-nilly cut it up here, I've just lost an ounce. Thank you. You get it. Yes. So I'm pulling this up so that I can do my bikini cut. All right, my bikini cut, you got that? Right above the pubic bones, then I'm going to pull it open, all right, gently. I don't want to, yawn the bird all the way up, just enough that I can go in kind of on the side, and I'm looking for that fat that's over the gizzard, all right, and we'll pull that fat off. There's an ounce. You take an ounce there, an ounce in the neck, and an ounce on the vent. That's 3 ounces of bird. That's 60 cents. You do 10,000 birds, that's $6,000. I mean, that's, a pair of shoes. So then So then I'm going in. What I'm looking for is I'm running my fingernails against the smooth keel bone. Remember, on a chicken, on birds, everything that's on herbivores on the back is on the belly. See, a chicken is here. So all the dark meat is above and the light meat is underneath. On four-legged animals, the highest quality meat is up on the back and the belly meats are the least. Are you with me? So on a chicken, the tenderloins are on the breast, okay? Whereas, on a cow or a pig, right, a lamb, the loins, the top quality is up here on the back. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm feeling that keel bone going in and feeling for the heart, that hard heart, and I've got that underneath my middle finger, and then I hook, notice my pointer finger, I hook that around the esophagus, all right, and that pulls out, see, here's the crop, and here's the windpipe, and see, nothing has spilled, none of the digestive juices has spilled into the carcass. It's all entire. Are you with me? Okay? Now I'm just going to roll this over. Here's the gallbladder, the green gallbladder, so I'm going to pinch that off of the liver. Okay? Oop, broke it. All right.
This is great.
Better get rid of this real quick. Excuse me?
Do you not keep the gizzard because of a preference?
I don't keep the gizzard because nobody at my house wants it, and in the time it takes us to, and very few of our customers want it, and so in the time it takes us to clean $10 worth of gizzards, we can clean $100 worth of chicken. We've sold gizzards to fishermen that use them to catch catfish. They're great for a hook because they're a real strong muscle. Like I say, we've given them away by the bucketfuls. I mean, we're glad to keep them for people, but we've just found that they're not. Excuse me? They're not cost effective. And I know I sound like a terrible capitalist saying that, but they're not. And so, I mean, we're tickled to death that we're able to sell all of our feet for 50 cents a pound.
Joel, speaking of the value of your time at processing, could you just say a little bit about further cutting up the chicken?
Sure. Okay.
Because what you guys do what Daniel does is amazing.
Yeah. So several years ago, we had so many customers wanting us to cut up because people don't want to cut up anymore. They actually don't realize the chicken has bones. And so we began, so how we did that to begin with, we, you want to pull those tail feathers off right there. So we took 10 birds, we weighed them, and then we cut them up and timed ourselves. I'm going to talk about that this evening a little bit, and I hope some of you will stay around for my thing this evening. It's a brand new talk. I've never done it before. Just put it together. I think you're going to like it.
You're lucky.
It's the fears of being a full-time farmer, and then the solutions to each one of those fears. 4:30? Is it
right here?
Yeah, right here at 4:30.
The very last one. I think it's 4:30.
Yeah. So anyway, so we cut up, and then we took our time. We said, how much do we want our time to be worth? And we plugged that in, and the first year we offered the cut-ups, we made $20,000 more without raising another chicken. That's the value of cutting up.
And the time it took?
Well, and our return to labor is about $60 an hour.
I got a lot higher than that because Daniel can do it in a minute, in 5 seconds, but you have to package it, and I understand a few more things.
Yeah, if I said it was $200 an hour, nobody would believe me. But we consider it a luxury. Anybody can learn how to cut up a chicken, and we've shown people how to cut up a chicken all the time. So we don't have any it's not something we really want to do. We consider it a luxury.
A $13 chicken becomes a $26 chicken in a minute and 5 seconds of processing on the table, and then another 5 minutes of packaging. You can do the math. And you didn't have to do any more chores
Yeah,
or
it's pretty
get up any
lucrative.
earlier in the morning.
Just like,
The question is having the time to do it. What does it take to clean a gizzard? It's for you, Joel.
patience. I mean, ideally, you wait till they get good and cold. You want them to get real good and cold because then they get stiff, all right? And then the skin peels off easier from the inside. And you know, you can get little, we even had gizzard peelers, you know, because we were saving all the gizzards, and you know, you put them on there, and that was a big help. But even with that, it still wasn't cost effective. It just wasn't cost effective. All right, got one more to go, and I can cut at a very easy, just not even, you know,
A trot.
well, trotting, not a sprint.
Yeah.
I can go pretty sustainably for hours at one bird every 30 seconds. So that's 200. That's 120 birds an hour. And Sherry, my daughter-in-law, can do the same. And so Wednesday we were dressing chickens, and she and I were gutting birds, and we were running about 240 birds an hour with the two of us gutting birds. So, you know, I always tell people, you know, something happens on the 1,389th chicken. You know, you either get really good or you just, you know, get frustrated. So it's like any skill. All right, questions while I go through this, while I'm going. Yes?
The chicken feed. So when we are using the dunking arm and the yellow scales are not coming off very easily, I noticed you had one that did not get...
Probably the last one that I held on to.
Right, no. Do you have a technique that you use to get the scales off, or are you selling them with that yellow color?
If they have a little yellow color on them, it's okay, but we do scrape pretty hard to get all that off. And of course, it is a scalding issue. But like Dave said, you know, if a group comes through and they're not right, we have no problem throwing them back into the scalder for 30 more seconds or something, and then running them back through the picker. No problem at all. Yep.
Sorry, just to do a quick follow-up. Is that less of a problem with the rotisserie than with the dunking arm then?
Yes.
Oh yes, far, because that yellow is the toughest part of the bird, and it's the last in, first out of every one of those scalds. Absolutely.
So that's the hazard of dunking. The most tender part's going in first, getting the most scald, the hardest part, like you've noticed, last.
Yes.
If you make a mistake with your knife, how do you remedy if you make like you slip?
You mean stitches or Band-Aids or?
Tourniquets.
Oh, if you cut the intestines, well then yeah, then you just wash it off real well. Now, one of the things that Daniel has developed at our place is we have a beautiful evisceration table that's an eight station table. It goes from about here to over there, and it has, I don't know another one like it in the country. We had it custom made for ourselves with perforated drop stations, you know, about yay size. So each person has the bird in their own drop perforated spot, so there can't be any cross contamination. All right, and it's been just wonderful. Okay.
Questions? Yes.
For those of us who are not going to do 500 birds in a year, is there a way that is there a block ramp where you can rent this equipment without having to buy it all?
Is there a way to rent the equipment? Fetterman.net, rental tab. Look for your state. We highly encourage anybody who has any equipment, not just ours, any equipment, to list their name on our rental page. It's free, and you get people started. We're happy about that, because our big challenge is meeting the needs of the under 50 flock who can't afford all this stuff.
Yeah, and let me just say this: that because of our efficiency with this system, with an 8-person crew, we can run 200 birds an hour, just right along. That's 25 birds per person hour. And you know what's interesting? That's exactly how fast Tyson goes in their huge processing plants. So there is a beauty and an efficiency. Small is beautiful. There is a beauty and an efficiency to this that you don't have when you have so much, shackles and gears and motors and apparatus that you have to have a whole machine shop. A whole machine shop of support. Are you with me? That all has to go into the amount of people per labor, right? And so when you take all that together, what you've just seen is just as efficient as the biggest outfits in the world. What that means, folks, is we should take over the world. When the industry says, can this feed the world? Can you actually do it? The answer is absolutely. All those people in those plants, they're very experienced. They're extremely, efficient. There is no reason why those people, you could have mobile processing units. You could have, people that like to do this. My idea is that the best is to do it just a couple days a week so you're not killing animals every day. I don't mind it, but there's an emotional issue, I think, in killing things every day. You should. Even the Levitical priests in the Old Testament drew straws as to who would do the killing for the month. And this idea that we have a system where people kill animals every day, I don't think it's not a healthy thing.
Let's get a few more questions. We're going to try to get out of here.
And by the way, that's not addressed in organic certification or anything.
Yeah. You can rent it from Pierce County for an unbelievable low amount. We're encouraging them to raise it. People don't take care of it at $20.
How long do you ice bath them afterwards?
Okay, so the birds have gone into an ice bath, and what we want them to come down to, we want them to come down to 40 degrees within 2 hours. Okay? And we don't want them to necessarily cool down extra fast. Again, slow is better, letting the rigors and the muscular change happen. And so we don't actually want them to cool as fast as we could. We want them to cool gently and slowly. Makes a much more tender bird. Now, we do not recommend for our customers that they take this chicken and cook it tonight. We say keep it 24 hours, cook it tomorrow. Just like aged meat needs to hang and age. The same thing here. It needs to, what chefs say, go through the rigors, okay, to age a little bit and become tender. Most cultures in the world, we're about the only one that fast cooks chicken. Every other, meat is cooked very stews and slow and that sort of thing. Part of that is because they kill them behind the restaurant. You go to Slovakia, and you go to a restaurant, they've got a crate of chicken just like this behind the back door. You order chicken, they go kill blah blah blah. And you can do that if you're cooking a slow, a stewish type thing. I'm not saying they're going to kill your chicken. They'll kill the chicken that they did, 3 hours ago, and then when they need more, they'll send the guy up the road. Yeah. Okay.
We're out of time. See him at the book signing.
Yeah. Thank you all very much.